If you don't want them here immediately, then you are a monster. Watch.
The President of the United States has decided that a couple of thousand scared, sick, people fleeing violence are a bigger threat to the United States than ISIS.
I spent 2 days with a caravan, and I didn't see criminals or rapists or terrorists.
Donald Trump feeds off of this kind of ugliness and cruelty, and his supporters back him on it because they didn't get the wall, but now they might be able to stop an imaginary caravan.
People have gotten so much dumber in the last 2 years. It's unbelievable. And it shouldn't surprise us that in the face of programming like that, a dozen Honduran migrants have sued the administration for supposedly violating their constitutional rights, even though, once again, they have not yet reached the border yet, and they are, of course, not American citizens. Mike Donovan is CEO of Nexus Services, which is financing that lawsuit. He joins us tonight. Mike, thanks a lot for coming on. And for explaining to me...
Thanks for having me.
Well, of course. A sincere question, and I really am glad that you're here, because it's hard to see what the standing is here. These are people who are not American citizens, are not on American soil, and some of them have declared intent to violate American law. How are their constitutional rights, the Constitution of a country they're not part of, how are those rights being violated exactly?
Well, so of the named plaintiffs in this lawsuit, each of them and each of the individuals in the purported class are individuals who want to seek asylum and do so legally. So I think that's an important part of this conversation. But Tucker, it's a good question. The asylum, so we have an immigration law, it's a series of immigration laws, and one of those elements is asylum. And those laws are specific to the individuals in this caravan who are coming to claim asylum. That in alone, it may not be enough, but the President of the United States has taken to making this caravan a symbol of an invasion of our country. And he has taken a great deal of time to defame the individuals who are traveling, fleeing bloodshed in their home countries, trying to find a place where they can live and support their families.
Okay, I get it, but hold on. What does that have to, and I understand you don't like that and you're on their side, you don't like Trump, fine. But what is that, how does that mean that they have a constitutional right that is being violated? What is that right? Where in the Constitution does it reside? As just a normal American, I'm confused. Can you help me?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a right to due process. These individuals are coming to the country. They have, in one way or another, stated their intent to come to the country, and the chief executive of this country has taken aim and attacked them. So what I'm saying is that their standing is very simple. They're asylum seekers. They want clarification. I think that we should respect these migrants for taking
maybe
the
we
time
should.
to seek
Hold on, wait,
clarification.
stop. This is a legal question, so I get it. We should respect them. You're on the side of the migrants. That's your right. I just want to know where my responsibility begins as an American citizen. You're saying they have a constitutional right to due process, but they're not Americans and they're not on U.S. soil. They're hundreds of miles from the United States. They're not here. So in what sense are they covered by our due process protect? Like, this is insane, and you know it's insane. I just want you to admit that it's insane.
No, it's not insane, Tucker. They are claiming rights under the asylum provisions of our statutes that affords them due process rights under that law. We have due process under the law. This is a law that is specifically directed to them. So of course they have due process rights.
No, they do. Let me just correct you as a non-lawyer. They do not possess those rights if they're in another country and not U.S. citizens. So if they possess those rights, then, I don't know, the entire country of Nigeria, or pick a country that's poorer than the United States, can say, we want to come there. President says you can't come, and all of a sudden 800 million people sue you for violating their constitutional rights in the country they've never been to?
With all due respect, Tucker, you know that that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about individual migrants who are coming together, who are on their way to the border to exercise their rights under U.S. law.
No, but
they have due process rights
but
under
it's
that
not.
law.
It's not different. But hold on, because it's a few.
It is different.
What's the principle? In what sense is it different? What's the principle? If
Because
you are a foreigner residing in a foreign country, okay. Well, I don't know if they're en route or not.
The entire nation of If the entire nation of Nigeria were en route to the United States, perhaps it would be apples to apples. But that's what you said. It's not correct. These are individuals coming to this country to seek asylum.
Okay, but first of all, you don't know that. We don't know what their intent is. They're hundreds of, no, actually, you don't. They're hundreds of miles away, and asylum claims have to be made on U.S. soil, either in an embassy, a consulate, or at our border. Okay, that's the law. Speak as someone who purportedly defends the law. You know that, I know. So you can't actually claim that you're covered by the U.S. Constitution. Again, if you're not on U.S. soil and you're not a U.S. citizen. Because if you could,
unfortunately,
no, that is the law.
But Tucker,
it's not an argument, it's a fact.
The courts don't agree with you. There's a court case in the D.C. Circuit that is in the matter of R.L. Johnson, where Judge Bosberg said that the administration can't use deterrence to curb asylum seekers who are coming to this country. I'm afraid that this is an area of law that's already been litigated. I'm not concerned about standing here.
You are incorrect. You're factually incorrect.
I'm not.
The United States, hold on. The United States Supreme Court has never said that due process protection applies to non-citizens on foreign soil. That has never happened, and you know it.
The District of Columbia federal courts have, and that's where this case is. So maybe one day we'll get to the Supreme Court. But I think it's important.
But look, here's what's important. Hold on. Here's what's important is that the rest of us know what the precedent is. And so by this standard, anyone in any country who says he's on his way to the United States and is walking in our direction can sue the United States for saying we don't want you? Like, you really want to set that precedent, or you don't care?
The president, do I want to set the precedent, Tucker? If the president of the United States engages in abusive, violent rhetoric toward a group of people, I want to set the precedent that that's not okay. It's with all due respect. No,
you know what? You're messing with our legal system
because
and our
I'm calling the
Constitution.
president. This president is behaving badly, and you know
you don't like the president.
And you
so
should condemn it too. It's not a matter of not liking the president. I don't like
every one of these people, please.
I don't like the president threatening to shoot children with rocks. Do you honestly believe that's okay?
I'm not going to give you more airtime to do a CNN. Do I think it's okay? I want to talk about adult things, like what does the Constitution guarantee foreigners? Is it okay that he's mean?
Very tight tonight between Republican Martha McSally and Democrat Kristen Sinema. Now, according to DHS, there are approximately 370,000 illegal immigrants already in the state, and thousands more are in mobile mobs barreling toward the U.S. border, ready to claim asylum, the so-called caravan. Now, the president throwing a wrench into their plans by announcing today a big change to the process. Let's watch.
Illegal aliens will no longer get a free pass into our country by lodging meritless claims in seeking asylum. Those who choose to break our laws and enter illegally will no longer be able to use meritless claims to gain automatic admission into our country. We will hold them.
Fantastic. I love it. Joining us now with reaction is Art Del Cueto, Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council and host of the Green Line radio show, and an old friend of mine, and Pam Owens, whose nephew, Detective Michael Davis Jr., was murdered in 2014 by an illegal immigrant who was already twice deported. And Art, first to you, is this going to make a difference in the number of illegals crossing the border, especially with this caravan approaching?
I think we have a situation where we have a president that actually cares. And I think that's what's important. We have somebody that he's actually making a bigger deal out of it. He's keeping us in the limelight. He's shown that he cares about illegal immigration. And that's a huge deal because we haven't seen that before. And that's very, very welcome. I hope it stops them from coming across. But the reality is, unless you stop the catch and release, it will not stop them.
He said we're going to catch. Yeah, here we're going to catch, but we're not going to release. He said that today, which a lot of people are questioning. I want to play something for you and for Pamela. This was Jake Tapper of CNN earlier today discussing what the president said. Let's watch.
We were told by the White House that President Trump would be introducing a new proposal, a new policy when it came to asylum. That's not actually what happened. I don't know of a national security expert who says there's actually a crisis at the border.
He doesn't know of a national security expert who considers it a crisis at the border. You deal with this day in and day out. Is this a crisis with the number of people now crossing the border?
It's been a crisis for quite some time. It was a huge crisis during the Obama administration. When we started under President Trump, the numbers lowered dramatically on his rhetoric alone. I think we missed the mark, the leaders of our agency. But now we're seeing a president that is going to enforce the law. He's not bringing anything new to the table. He's just saying we need to protect our borders. I mean, what a crazy idea, right?
But it's racist, and you're Hispanic yourself. How does it feel to you to have the president called racist, anti-Latino, xenophobe, nativist? Every time he talks tough on the border and wants to do something, all those names, we just did a whole segment on it, all those names come out.
You know, when you don't have an argument anymore and you realize that you're wrong, that's what you have to say, racist. I myself, I've been called an Uncle Juan so many times, a race traitor. Why don't you, stand up for your own race? It's not a racial thing. Border security has nothing to do with race. The security of our country has nothing to do with race. I owe everything to this country. And the only flag that I would fly, the only flag that I support, and the only country that I support is the United States of America. It has nothing to do with race.
A lot of blue flags in that caravan, the Honduran flag, other flags. I don't see a lot of American flags, but
well,
I see a lot of...
If you're escaping a country because they've oppressed you so badly, would you be really flying the flag of that country that oppressed you?
That's a great point, which I had not thought of. Thank you for raising it. Pamela, I want to go to you because the president has been vilified, Pamela, for raising the issue of illegal immigrant crime. Outrage all day long because he's discussed cases such as that of your nephew, a police officer in California, gunned down in cold blood by Luis Bracamontes, who was twice deported, and yet came back and killed and then laughed about it in court when he was being sentenced. I've got to get your take on the vilification of this president and his concern about illegal immigrant crime. Pamela.
I support everything this president is doing and has done. Our entire family are so grateful for everything that he's done. I get so angry when I listen to what people do say about him because he's not a villain. He's doing what he was hired to do, which is protect our nation, protect our people. That's what he's there for. That's what he's supposed to do. And finally, we have a president who's doing it, and the Democrats just can't stand it. They have blood on their hands. They should be ashamed of themselves. Listening to your last guest talking about we should be embarrassed. No, they should be embarrassed. And shame on them, all of them. And thank you, President Trump.
I have to say, Pamela, I am so stunned when I see people. I shouldn't be after all these years. I should just not be surprised at all. But I'm stunned when you have someone standing up for victims who are trafficked, victims of gun crime, of guns coming across the border, meth. I know you deal with the fentanyl art as well coming across the border. And in this case, a California police officer, 2 gunned down. And for him to bring this up is somehow racist? He doesn't care if it's black, white, Asian, whoever, gay, straight. It's an American killed.
Exactly.
And that's racist? Say, if you could speak right directly to the American people watching this right now, Pamela, about this toxic charge of racism that we heard all day long on CNN and MSNBC, all day long.
Well, I can tell you that take a walk in our shoes and see what it feels like, and you would understand it has nothing to do with race. I don't care what race Mr. Bracamontes was. He murdered 2 officers, as well as, I believe the man that he carjacked was a black man. So let's not talk race. It has nothing to do with race. He was a criminal, an illegal alien. He was not an illegal immigrant. He was an illegal alien in our country numerous times illegally. And he just, shame on those who get on the president for doing what he should do.
They use the charge, Art, because they do not have an answer, and they know this is a potent issue because, as you know, the president said today, if we had time to play it, women want to be safe too, Art. Let's watch that.
There's nothing political about a caravan of thousands of people and now others forming, pouring up into our country. We have no idea who they are. I don't want them in our country. And women don't want them in our country. Women want security. Men don't want them in our country, but the women do not want them. Women want security.
Safety is very important. Home, homeland, those concepts for women. As a woman, you want to be safe.
Correct.
And not everybody's a criminal. A lot of people just want to come to work. We all know that. But sadly, that hasn't been the case. Even right near here, Mesa, Arizona, we've had a big problem in Mesa, Arizona. Grant Ronenbeck shot in the face.
But you don't know. That's the thing. If you don't vet these people properly, you don't know. You're here in Arizona. close to 40% of all the drugs that enter this country illegally come through here. And we're coming up on elections, and I think it's very important that people are going to realize when you go to that poll, do you want border security? 40% of drugs come through Arizona. Do you want border security, or do you want somebody that doesn't care about our borders?
Sinema is not good on the border. She's terrible on the borders. McSally is the only person you can vote for. Absolutely. Thank you so much to both of you, Pamela and Art. Great to have you on, as always. Pam, thanks for being brave and brave enough to share that story tonight. We will never forget.